On the latest episode of the PCT podcast, we are delighted to be joined by Chloe Jones, Technical Director at Stoke City Women. So without any further ado, good morning, Chloe. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm good, thank you. Are you all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
Good.
Obviously, again, we want to say thank you for taking the time to speak to us. How are you finding the return to play now as we've just come out the other side of lockdown now and hopefully have a return to play soon?
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think for players and staff, it's been a difficult time, but for me, it's actually, it makes you miss the game even more. So it's really exciting to come back. I think everyone's got kind of a newfound energy and motivation to come back and be a part of it, and also a bigger appreciation, because I think probably at times we took football for granted because it was always there. And then when it's taken away from you and it's out of your control, you do really, really miss it. And you realise, why you commit so much time throughout the week, and why you, prioritise football over probably other things. And it makes you really reflect on that. So we've returned to training this week. The pre-season friendlies are starting next week. Really exciting. We've got a fantastic bunch of staff and players, and it's been really, really refreshing this week, and even the steps to that we've taken before we actually return to the grass.
I mean, we've been speaking for a while to try and pin down a time, and when we first spoke, you were the manager.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that role's changed now, and you're now the technical director. How has that changed during lockdown, and what does your role now entail?
Yeah, so I was head coach last year, which was in itself a really big jump from recently, I guess, retiring, if I can still say recently, with it being a few years ago now. Yeah. But it was a role that I think the structure needed changing, because what happened last year was, yes, we had head coaches. So within the women's team, we've got three teams. So we've got the first team, the reserve team, and the development team. Also, the Stoke City RTC, and with only having kind of head coaches and I want to say just assistant coaches or whatever we want to call them, it didn't give us enough time or personnel to share ideas, to bounce off each other, and to support each other, because we were all in our own little bubble, focusing our own squad. So we needed kind of the change of role to have someone overseeing it a little bit more. And I'll still be heavily involved on the grass, but it'll be across the three teams. Focusing on player development and staff development, and also kind of building that relationship and closing the gap between the RTC and the women's setup. It was really needed, but really exciting as well, because I'm working definitely closer to the men's side as well, and being really integrated within the whole club structure. It was needed.
Has that been a big sort of breakthrough in terms of how close you are now working with the men's side? And I know it's been a long time coming, having been involved with Stoke City Women some years ago. Has that been a big, as you say, big breakthrough now?
Definitely. I think we're taking little steps, but they're really important steps. And I guess from the outside, it might look like a small step, but they're actually quite big steps internally. And everything has just been pulled in house, and like what I was talking to you earlier, our return to play and risk assessments and stuff, they're exactly the same as the men's first team, because everything's under the same umbrella, and it's the same personnel that are signing it off and going to check the venues and stuff. It's been a long time coming, but we get in women's football, you almost have to prove your worth. And then you take those steps, and we're already talking about future developments to be put in place this year for next year. So we're trying to get as ahead of the game as possible to have those right conversations now, rather than leaving it till the end of the season, and then it might be too late, and then it puts it another year back. So we're looking at probably a 5-year plan. Each year nudging it along. But I think within the last kind of 12-18 months, we've made massive strides as a club, on the pitch and off the pitch, which is really exciting.
So sounds really positive, and a good time to be part of the club. Let's just rewind a little bit. Obviously, season cut short for the lockdown and COVID. We're slowly returning to some form of normality. How difficult was it or was there any difficulties in keeping in touch with the team and keeping them motivated when we didn't know when we were coming back?
Yeah, it wasn't. You know, it was all of the players that we've got were really good at keeping in touch. I mean, we had, you know, Zoom call after Zoom call as a whole club. You know, the RTC involved as well as kind of individual squads, and we, you know, we were really kind of flexible of what we did. We had a range of activities, so it wasn't all kind of lectures, you know, and the coach is saying this is what we're going to do. It was like, you know, setting different tasks, and actually players coming back, having like completed a task, and we it's a lot of shared ownership, because we know that, you know, we're not a dictatorship. We want everyone to agree, you know, what we wanted to put in place. So we've done, like, you know, tactical stuff, we've done environment stuff, we've done one-to-ones, just to have a varied focus, and just for it not to get monotonous, and make it worthwhile for the players. Because what we wanted to do is to kind of do all that, so then when we did return to play, it was actually, we can focus on the football, and we've already done the stuff behind the scenes. So rather than having meetings, you know, wasting time when we can actually be on the grass, we wanted to do it that way. But the players have really been good at getting involved, being very vocal, because, like I said, everyone's had, you know, a new sense of, you know, appreciation for everything. And like I said earlier, when something gets taken away that means so much to you, you know, it everyone just was so hungry, and you can tell in the way that they're training. I know it's only been kind of 1 week, 2 sessions. They're so hungry, and you know, they had training programs over lockdown. And I don't know whether you know, we did a charity event for North Staffs hospitals, and we aimed to run 2,000 miles, and we actually smashed that. I think we ran over 3,000 miles in a week. And you know, it was even, you know, players had a spreadsheet. They had to input all like their proof of their miles, like pictures and stuff. So it was just things like that we didn't want to just kind of every week have a meeting for meeting's sake. We wanted there to be some reason behind it, because players were giving up a lot of time. The only thing I guess that was difficult was when, you know, we kept getting asked the question, when are we returning, and it was really difficult when we didn't know. It was great when we knew the date. It was so good to tell the players, because I think all they wanted to know was, and all we wanted to know was, like a target date. And when we were able to give that, it was, the time seemed to go a lot quicker. Whereas when we didn't have the date, it just seemed to be kind of every week, we didn't know anymore, and that's no one's fault. That was just, you know, for the safety of, you know, the people and stuff. And the government guidelines are changing so often that we wanted to make sure that when we did return, it was at the right time and at the safest time. Because I know that, you know, other teams went back and stuff, and obviously our players looked at that and thought, well, what, you know, why are they going back? But then we had to explain that we've got different guidelines, you know, and we have to make sure that we're following the government and the club guidelines. So everything was by the book, and like I said, we're more comfortable now, because we know that, you know, everything's like the T's have been crossed, the I's have been dotted. So we know that we're in the safest environment possible, and the players and staff had to undertake training to agree that they adhere to it, they'll do it, and they've been fantastic. It's a new normal, which, you know, so it's not normal, but they're being really, really mature about it.
I mean, I suppose it works in a positive way now that you've got every single player, as you mentioned, chomping at the bit to get back. How do you maintain that and maybe control that in the training to stop overexertion?
Yeah, so there has been a lot of studies since there's been a return to play, and that's in the male and female game. There's been a lot of studies to say that there's been a lot more injuries. Because obviously players haven't played since March, unless, you know, it's in the top level and stuff. So we've had a massive focus on activation and mobility, to improve kind of core strength, and to help to prevent as many injuries occurring. So, you know, there's studies on like more ACLs, hamstring tears, and a lot of muscle tears, because they're using muscles that, you know, you can do runs and different training, but it's different when you've got a ball at your feet and you got to sprint to press someone, change your direction and stuff. So we've had a massive focus on that, and that will continue to happen. So that's probably been the main difference. And then it's actually the intensity that we're going into, because obviously normally it's pre-season, bam, players are sick. The aim is to make players sick. But at this point, because they haven't been involved in the environment, they've been doing a lot of individual training, which we know if you work in a group, you work harder because you're pushed by other people, and it's that external kind of motivation. But so we've had to put a big emphasis on the activation, mobility, flexibility, core strength, as well as actually us monitoring the periodization of the intensities of the session. And players were given all this information, so kind of we plotted like a graph of our periodization, how it would look, to ensure that when we do start the season towards the end of September, hopefully, we hit the ground running, and that's when we hit our peak. Because players, I think, when in lockdown, they thought, I'll get as fit as possible, whereas actually you need the rest, else you'll peak too soon, then you'll get injuries because you'll be training and playing fatigued, and then it's hard to then recover. So it was educating the players on that as well.
Sounds like it. Even though we've had a lockdown period and time away from the grass, it's been a bit of a busy period for yourself.
Yeah, really busy. I mean, my as well as obviously football, my full-time job is in education. So I mean, it's been busy across the board, really. But the similarities are, you're looking after people in both roles. So it's actually putting those people first. So it's been an eye-opener, and it's been definitely different and challenging. But I think there's a lot of bad things that have come out of COVID, but I think there's actually quite a good amount of good things as well, and positive things in the way that how we can work differently, we can work smart, and I think that's probably been the good thing out of it.
Possibly been, like I say, a big reset button for many of us in different aspects, and without repeating myself from previous podcasts, it's been a chance to reflect and maybe review how we work, and I think it's been a great period of time. That's probably the wrong word to say with the situation, but for people to think about where we're going and what we're doing, I think it's been a reflection.
Yeah, and to really refine like the focuses and stuff, because we all work at 100 miles per hour, don't we? And it's been good to kind of literally, okay, well, what is important? And let's, spend more time doing that.
Yeah, 100%. And just before, obviously, I want to get to what got you to where we are with the technical director role. Let's go back to your playing career. You mentioned that you've been retired a few years now. What age did you start playing, Chloe?
So competitively, I mean, I played from a really, really young age. I've got a twin sister. I've got cousins similar age. That it was all sport, and then it all turned to just football every day. When we went to each other's houses, it was straight in the garden. Hello everyone, see you later. I'm going to go in the garden. So I think competitively, probably about 8. And when I say competitively, at that time it wasn't quite in a team, but it was a lot of kind of the boys training sessions on a weekly basis. My mum and dad used to take me to those and stuff, and then I ended up playing for the school team and things. So actually it was my year. I was in primary school, and it was my year. They'd never had a female team before, and they started it because they just had so many sporty girls, and we were kind of always, they noticed that when we were on the playground and the field, suddenly the girls started joining the boys playing football, and they're like, oh god, there's a lot of those, so let's. And it wasn't about being the best. It's actually, this is a great opportunity to get ourselves a team. So it was the school team where I first started, playing actually official games at about 9-10 years old.
The female game is on a meteoric rise, and rightfully so. Was there any stigma around, playing or mixing with boys when you first started playing, or were you aware of it as such?
To be honest, I was quite lucky. I mean, the only thing I had when I was younger was obviously when I went to the boys' training camps, and on a weekly basis, and I think it wasn't technically named as a boys' training, but I just seemed to be the only girl, so it was just the first couple of sessions, and it was you'd be pit last. And then actually when they saw you play, they were like, oh, okay, now we don't see her as a girl, we see her as a player. So then it like changed the perception. And I think at that age, I think, people, young kids, there's not naivety, but there's an innocence. So I don't think there really was a stigma then. It wasn't till kind of got a little bit older that started to come into play, because, when you're that age, you just want to play, and you just want the best players. And it almost went, like I say, you turned into a footballer rather than being a girl playing with us. And that's not right. And then as soon as we got a school team, I think it helped that we were pretty good, and we had kind of a core kind of 4 or 5 players. So we only played like small sided games against like other schools that had them, and we used to win. So kind of that gave us good recognition. And then at play times, we do that. And then it was when I was in year 6 in primary school, that the teacher who set it up sent, I think, 3 or 4 of us to Walsall Schoolgirls trials. And I got in, so I kind of that was also a really positive thing for the school. So that set me on onto a good thing, because when you're playing for Walsall, and it was a massive team around at that time for the boys and the girls. And I think probably at that age there wasn't much of it, which is really good, because I know a lot of other people that I played with and played against, they really, really struggled, and they didn't get involved in football seriously till a little bit later, because they were scared, or they got bullied, and and it was really negative time for them, and a negative experience. But I didn't experience too much of that until probably a little bit older. But then even then I didn't experience too much, to be honest. I think not like I would say I've never been a bad player, and I think all the people I just surrounded myself with the good people, and I would never give any time to anyone that thought negatively about it. So I think I just dismissed it, because I just thought, well, for me, you're not a great person to be around, so I'm not actually going to listen to you, and your opinion doesn't mean a lot to me. And I'd never say anything back. It was just dismissed. So just probably surrounding myself with probably better people.
So with that in mind, would you say you've built up quite a strong mental resilience to other opinions, especially later on in your career where you take a coaching or management role?
Definitely. I think I've always been, when it's come to kind of anything that I've been passionate about, I've been really, really strong-minded. I mean, when I was younger, I used to be really shy, and my twin sister used to be the loud one, used to make all the decisions for us and stuff, and I just probably rely on her a lot. But I just kind of quietly, got on with my passions, and there was probably nothing that would have stopped me from doing that. My passion, yes, I wanted to play at the highest level I could, but effectively, if I wasn't good enough, I just wanted to play. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to do. So I was probably lucky being all right, I guess.
So you mentioned there, obviously, the Walsall Schoolgirls trials. Then you started your career at Wolverhampton Wanderers Centre of Excellence. Yeah. At what age did you start there, and was it a scout, open trials, invitations?
So it was, how Wolves and all the other professional teams, they have obviously the summer football camps and stuff. We just had, it was my auntie actually that saw it in the newspaper at that time, when we always used to read newspapers, and it was just the Wolves are running a camp, and it was at Willenhall Comprehensive School. I said, oh, you know what, that would be brilliant. Like, well, me and my sister will go to that. And it happened to be one of the Centre of Excellence. Well, actually, it was Rob Williams, Centre of Excellence director at the time. And he invited us down. So it wasn't kind of the open trial. So we were like, oh, okay, of course we'll go to this. Didn't really know what Centre of Excellence was. And then went down in the middle of the season to training. So me and my sister got in. She was a right back. I was an out-and-out left winger at the time, because I was probably the only left footer in the team, and I was pretty quick. So naturally, that's where I went. And yeah, so we went down, and then they asked to sign us. So it went from there, really. So yeah, it was we got scouted effectively, rather than kind of applying for the trials. And we used to train at the Jenny Lee Centre. I don't know whether. Jenny Lee. It's like, yeah, so it's based in Willenhall. It's now new houses, so it's not there anymore, and it was on the the worst astroturf ever, sand-based and stuff. You wouldn't finish training without a burn. But honestly, it was a Monday night. So you'd play for Centre of Excellence and the club. So you play, you know, for Wolves, kind of it would have been under 14s plus a Centre of Excellence on a Monday. And yeah, probably some of the most happiest times of training there, because that core of players, we were just like a family. And then obviously we all moved up together and stuff, and it was fantastic. But when anyone always asks, I always say Wolves was probably my home, because I had such an amazing experience and length of time, and that time probably made me to the player that and the person that I've been in my career.
I like that a couple of times already you've alluded to footballers as people, not players. How important would you say that is to make them feel a person first, then a player?
Definitely. I think as a player and as a coach now, we look at the person before the player, because, and you know, you can't. The people, the players, they're not just numbers. Like you know, they're people, and they've got a lot going on other than football. And it's about looking after that, getting to know kind of what makes them tick. And you know, even as a player, you need to know what motivates everyone around you, and how to communicate, how to, you know, give feedback, how to almost help support them and stuff. And you know, I've made the best friends in football. You know, I've got really, really amazing friends from school, but I've also got an amazing group of friends from football, and you know, they're still my best friends now. And that's not because they were brilliant footballers, but it's more that they were really great people and still are. And probably as a coach now, that's probably even more important. Now having the right attitudes, culture, and you know, people around you that won't put other people down, and you know, and are in it for the right reasons, in it for the team. So yeah, that's really important to me, and always has been. And that's probably been instilled in me by my family. Really, you know, it was always that when you know, we want to help to support you to be good people first, and you know, to make a difference and to have a good impact on other people around you, and to, you know, to be positive, supportive, and just to be that good person.
No, I love that. I mean, I went slightly off track there, so I do apologise. But going back, a proud moment, age 14, being called up to the first team at Wolves.
Yeah.
Can you remember how you felt in that first session?
It was probably a little bit surreal, really. And I think looking back, yes, a really, really proud moment. But when you just probably, you know, a young player, you just want to play. So, you know, everything's asked for. Yeah, you know, I'll do that. So it was a night game. Dennis Mortimer was the manager at the time, and I didn't have a long spell with Dennis Mortimer. He moved on not long after, and Paul Taylor took over. But yeah, it was a really proud moment. And you know, my family have always believed in me, but you know, to have coaches believe in you as well, because I had really, really amazing coaches in each age group at Wolves. But then to be told that, you know what, you've impressed, so we want to see you. And at that time you could do that at 14. It was not kind of an age restriction, it was just, when you're ready, let's get you up. But I just remember feeling so comfortable, because even kind of within the younger age groups in the first team and the reserve team, Wolves were like a family. From the youngsters, we always used to go and watch the first team. You know, we'd always have a good chat with them and stuff. So when I went to the age, I felt like I already knew some of them. You know, in a different, it was in a different environment, obviously standing on the other side of the the kind of the railings, and then sitting in the stadium, and then going to play. But I just remember, you know, I think the world of these, so I've got to just give my all and try and prove that I am good enough, and hopefully, you know, I can help the team achieve. So, really, really proud moment, but probably didn't realise that until probably after how big of the moment it was. Because I know at 14 it was young. I think I just assumed that was just the norm, and that happened all over the place. Well, maybe it didn't as much. But yeah, they were like a family, and Dennis, you know, he really believed in his players, and you know, really took a personal approach. So yeah, no, it was brilliant.
You mentioned there that when you did take that step, you felt comfortable. Were there any sort of senior players that took you under your wing, or were you welcomed with maybe a crunching challenge to hello and welcome to the first team?
Probably both, because every team I've been at, very competitive. Wolves are probably one of the most competitive environments I've been at, and that probably gave me the resilience. But I mean, at that time we had players like Anne Blackham, Emily Westwood, Amy McCann, Kerry Manley, Hayley Everett, so really, really experienced players that have played on an international level. And then obviously Emily Westwood, Amy McCann, they went on to Everton, and then Blues after. So really, really big players. But again, I'm still friends with a lot of them now, and they literally just made you feel so comfortable. Took you under your wing and really, really looked after you, but also would push you as well. So you weren't seen as you're a 14-year-old. You're seen as actually you're good enough to be here, so act like you're good enough to be here, and there is an expectation, and there's a standard, and you have to meet that standard. So it was supportive and motivational.
So you mentioned about reaching those standards there. You were then named captain, and captain the side from 2005 to 2007 before moving to Crewe. Having seen those standards, how did you then bring that through to the younger players coming through?
I think from being in the environment for since such a young age, I never played to be captain. I never thought, I want to, I'm expecting to be captain. I just wanted to play and show good attributes and stuff. And I think the coaches saw that as good leadership skills. But I think I definitely learned them from the players previously. So from those standards, and I think everyone I've played with, and the girls that I coach now, they would always say that I try and be a perfectionist, and I've got high standards, and I'm very professional. But I think it's learning from others that I kind of learned those skills, and the standards that have to be in place to in order to be a well-oiled team, and actually aspiring to those as well, not just settling for mediocrity.
We mentioned there, obviously, there was a move to Crewe that was very sort of short-lived, where you went over to Leicester, and the following season and stayed captain again over the next 3 seasons. Must have been a real confidence booster when moving clubs to being stated as captain almost immediately.
Yeah, so when I went to Leicester, it was actually Remy Allen was captain before me, and she then moved on, and they then got made captain. But and it was really hard for me to move from Wolves, and it was just kind of for my personal progression route. And I always say to players, it's not that players aren't loyal, because as long as you remember your roots, remember where you came from, and appreciate those, that they actually helped you to get you to where you wanted to be, and to never burn bridges. So if it wouldn't have worked out at those clubs, I know that I could have gone back to Wolves, because I made sure I had really, really good relationships, and they knew I was leaving, not because I hated the club. It was actually, I loved it, but I need to move on for me. It loved my time, probably at both Crewe and Leicester. I was at Leicester for 3 years. It's a completely different environment, because when I moved to Crewe, I knew a lot of the players. But when I moved to Leicester, I barely knew anybody. So it was starting from scratch, which was really kind of, I was, God, how old was I? Like 19, 20, I think I was. And it was amazing. I think they'd just been promoted into the Northern Premier at the time. And yes, I stayed there for 3 years, got coached by Rhiannon Skinner, who's now under 21s England head coach, Craig White, who had a wealth of experience in the game, played the game when he was younger, like brilliant, and Leanne Hall, who is probably one of the best goalkeepers I've ever played with, because she signed for us for a long time, but also then turned into assistant coach. And then now she's involved in England. I think she's Arsenal, head goalkeeper coach and stuff. So just having that experience around you. And Rachel MacArthur, she was an England pro, came to Leicester. So again, having all these people around me, I've always been someone that, even when I was captain, I never stopped wanting to learn. I never thought, I must be the best because I'm captain. It was always, actually, I'm so, like, you know, I'm still so hungry. I'm still a young player. I want to develop, and I want to learn, and that probably would, you know, helped me to continue the development, because, you know, I've seen so many players that probably peak at 18, 19, and I genuinely believe that it's because they think that they know it all. And there's nothing more to learn. Whereas actually, even at the age of 30, when I retired, you know, everyone was saying that season I was probably the most hungry to learn, even then. And, you know, through my coaching now, that's made me realise that actually as a player, I hardly knew anything. Now I'm still kind of developing from that, from that point of view. But yeah, with Leicester, you know, towards the end of Wolves, I converted into a centre midfielder, which that's when my career really probably did kick off. Because I loved playing left wing, but, you know, I'm not a greedy player, but I always wanted the ball, you know, and when I had the ball, it's not like I'd take, you know, the world's on, but I'd always make sure I'd want the ball to help my teammates and stuff. And they thought, you know, let's try her in the middle. And I really flourished in there, and that's where I continued to play throughout my career then. So that really Dave Ball gave me that chance at Wolves, and I'll never forget that he saw that in me, because I think, I'm not saying without that change I wouldn't have been where I was, but maybe not. Maybe I wouldn't have.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting that, and one thing I find now as a coach is the opinions, you know, and I'm sure you've had it in the past. Your opinion of one player might be in a certain position, someone else might be another, and that, I think that's the great thing about football, about opinions, and maybe experimenting with it. And as you mentioned there, without maybe that experimentation, you may not have kicked on as it did.
Yeah.
During your time at Leicester, this was quite a hard fact to find, if I'm honest, was that you were crowned British champion as part of the England university team.
Yep.
Tell us about that. How proud of a moment was that?
So at university, so I played in the university team, so University of Wolverhampton, and each year they could kind of send people to like the training camps and trials for the English university team, and you go through loads of different phases to be able to be successful. So the first training camp was at Leeds Met University. And so went up there again, had no kind of, I didn't expect to be even put through to the next stage really, and then yet got invited to the next camp, and then was selected to be part of the England university squad. And I remember waiting for that phone call. You know, we got told we'd be told, you know, between certain times. I think I was just staring at my phone at that time. So then we had a camp at Warwick University for a week, and then had different games then, and then we had the British University Games in Edinburgh, which again I didn't even realise how big that was going to be. But this is kind of, the British University Games is every sport all in one venue. So it was based at the uni, so you'd stay there for, I think it was just less than a week. You'd play, obviously, you know, Scotland, Wales, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, sorry, not Republic of Ireland, and then you play all those, and then we were crowned champions, and it was amazing. You had your ceremony, and that you know, you at the start you had an opening ceremony, closing ceremony, and we were crowned champions, and my position changed again then, because then I played more of like a 10, and at one point I was playing in a 9 role. So I think I played all over, and it went to, I know one game went to penalties, and that was probably the first time that I took a really serious penalty. Because, you know, I was at Leicester, but we always had a penalty taker, and you know, we practiced, and then for some reason I just loved taking penalties then. So then wherever I went, I was the first one to go, yeah, you know, I'll take it. I just, especially in a penalty shootout, I just made sure that I took the first one, so then the pressure wasn't overly on me. But and something in my head that always kind of sticks out is that everyone always says that left footers can't take penalties. So that was another thing that I thought, I need to prove them wrong. And yeah, I loved the pressure of taking a penalty.
How were you finding your studies whilst obviously having so much exposure to football and your football career?
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, I was studying sport anyway, so it was something that kind of helped and supported. And you know, with my studies when I was in school, like sixth form as well as university, they loved the fact that I played football at such a high level, so they really supported me. So if we had any games, you know, midweek games, they'd work almost the timetable around me. So I was really lucky for that, really. You know, it looks good on the universities and schools as well, doesn't it? So you know, it had a two kind of ways support. I think obviously with that, during university was the time where unfortunately I lost my dad. So that was probably of course it was. That was the hardest time. I was in my third year. I was still at Leicester, and it happened. My dad died in June 2009. So it was during so you know, I had kind of, I think it was like two weeks off work and stuff, but the one thing that I thought would help was football, to get back in football. And everyone said, you know, I think you're going back too early and whatever. But yeah, so I went back, and everyone was brilliant, because I'm never someone that, I never wanted pity, you know, and I never wanted that. I just wanted to just get on and enjoy, because my dad was probably one of the biggest role models. Well, mum and dad were, but my dad played football quite at a high level when he was younger, until he got an injury. So it was almost doing it for him, you know, to get back into it and stuff. So yeah, so managing studies, you know, that was fine, but it was, you know, the added thing about my dad being ill and stuff, I think that added a lot of pressure, and well, not pressure, it was just kind of, you know, you have to be there for everybody, don't you? And you know, you and it was just kind of, you know, at times me going to football was good for me, but then I felt selfish for doing something that I enjoy, and it's almost like you feel like you shouldn't be smiling, and you shouldn't be happy, you know, when you're going through such a sad time. So that was a really surreal and strange time, but I knew ultimately that my dad would want me to do what I love, sort of thing.
I'm very sure he's looking down now, very proud of you, Chloe. We then move on. You had your 3 years at Leicester, as we mentioned, and then moved to Liverpool, a step to the Women's Super League. Was that always the aim, to play at Super League level? And how did you find that step up?
Yeah, definitely. I always wanted to play at the highest level. The one thing that I'll always kind of, you know, be sad about is unfortunately not getting into the England setup, especially when I was younger. But moving to the WSL, it was even more special being the first year of it, because, you know, when I was growing up, it was, you know, you Fulham, you Doncaster Bells, you know, they were the professional sides. Charlton, they were getting paid, and then a couple of years later, the funding would be taken. So then it was like that, wasn't it? The women's football, so it would have a peak and then it would drop. So with the Women's Super League, having so many teams, you know, being professional and being able to make a career of it, it was just something that I had to be involved in. And I was probably kind of towards hitting my peak then. So the move, it was a massive challenge. It was a massive, you know, step up for me, but one that, you know, you have to be confident that you are ready. And you know, it didn't take me long to break through to the team and kind of secure my place in the starting 11. And yeah, you know, I absolutely loved it. It was the most professional environment ever, you know, training at the training ground, being really part of the club. It was fantastic, you know. But I just, at that point, I was living in Nottingham, working at Leicester, and then travelling to Liverpool, and that was kind of 4 times a week on that M6 and, well, actually M1, you know, A50, M6, and that was an absolute nightmare. And I get to training thinking I'm absolutely shattered, like, but I've got to, it's fitness testing tonight, or I've got to do this tonight and stuff. And because it meant so much to me, I just found the energy, and that was probably the time where I had to look after myself the best, and it was more, but I found it the most difficult. So I think at times I was close to, if not at burnout, but, you know, I had to hide it because I didn't want it to affect my place and stuff. And we used to train on, it's even worse, we used to train on a Friday night. So, you know, we used to train kind of 3 to 4 nights a week, play Saturday or Sunday. I think some of our games like 6 p.m. on a Saturday and stuff. So it was really intense, but I knew it was one that, you know, I wanted to give my best shot. And yeah, and I did really enjoyed it. But yeah, the biggest challenge in my career was the whole aspect of that.
Yeah, we got a move then to Aston Villa in 2013, where you were part of the League Cup winning side.
Mm-hmm.
You did touch on it briefly. That how did you find the travelling to those games and training whilst trying to juggle a career as well?
At Villa.
At Villa, yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, it felt like it was around the corner. Like it honestly, it was. I absolutely loved it. Not just my time at Villa, but it was so nice. And so at that point, so I'd finished uni. I'd done my teaching qualification, and I was my first teaching job was at Heart of Worcestershire. Well, it was actually North East Worcestershire College, then changed to Heart of Worcestershire College, but it was based in Redditch. So, and we obviously trained at the Dome and the training ground. So honestly, it felt like it was around the corner. You know, it took me 20 minutes to get to training, and it was a joy. Like I loved that journey. Even I think my bank preferred me to do that journey as well, because the amount of money that I spent on fuel going to everywhere else. But yeah, it was brilliant. Even, you know, at Liverpool, I'd get home at sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'd have to get up at 5, 6 o'clock. So, you know, the difference to be able to get home at, you know, 10 o'clock and actually probably have something to eat after, or literally just have a time to just chill and just, you know, before you get to, you go to bed and stuff. That it was lovely. It was really, it was really nice.
Small differences make big differences. Following your move, obviously from Villa, something that not a lot of players or coaches may experience, but a move to Finland. Talk to us around that decision to play abroad and just how it came about, really.
Yeah, so I mean, when I was a lot younger, I had the opportunity to potentially go like to America, and it was probably always one thing when I thought, you know what, it was, you know, the European game was really strong, and it was probably just one of those things when I thought, you know what, I'd love to experience that. And the guy that was my coach over there, Gary Williams, was English, but lived in Finland, so played in the Finnish league. Played for Åland United, and that, I mean, it was so surreal. I'd never been to Scandinavia before, and I'd said yes to this, which was, you know, really. But that's probably just the person that I am. I always think, you know, take advantage of every experience you can have. If I didn't enjoy it, I knew it was a plane home. So, you know, and so I was comfortable with that. So Åland, so it's a set of islands just off Finland and Sweden. It's almost in the middle. So we actually lived on an island, and I think there's about 20,000 people that live there. But then in the summer, because it's the place to go, like there's villas all over the place, and then it kind of, in summer you have like a festival over there, so it turns into like 50,000 that live there. So it was crazy, but it's the most gorgeous place. I'd put it on my list to go if you can ever go. And yeah, so played in the Nationliga. And it was, you know, it was great because football was my focus, and that was my full-time job. And it was a real good taste of, okay, well, this is what real full-time is, you know. At Villa, at Liverpool, yes, you know, it was a professional contract, but I always had something else going on, whether it was a teaching job or whether it's studying and things. So it was really good, probably for me to experience that. I lived in a house of so 2 Americans, Scottish girl who I'm still so close with. I stayed there for a season. We used to play kind of on a weekend, generally Saturdays. So we would obviously train every day. Obviously see, you know, physios if we needed to throughout the week and stuff. And then we'd actually travel to games on a cruise ship. So so we'd train on a Friday night, go home, get showered, and then we'd be picked up on the coach at like 11 p.m. We'd travel to the port, then we get on this kind of, I mean, it's technically a ferry, but it's pretty much a cruise ship. Yeah. So you get on that coach, and then you'd go to bed. So you go to one of the cabins. There'd be 4 of us in a cabin, and it was always kind of our housemates. Then we'd get up, we'd wake up, have breakfast on the ship, and then we'd travel to the game. And then after the game, we'd come back, get on the boat, and then you know, sleep over. And it was incredible because it was something that was such a unique experience to do that. And sometimes we had to go on sleeper trains because they'd be at North Finland and stuff. So it was amazing. We played in pre-season. We played like Malmo in Sweden. We played like some of the top Swedish sides, and it was brilliant. We ended up coming third that year, which, to be honest, we probably could have come second. To be honest, and we competed with the first place, and it was absolutely amazing. I absolutely loved it. We went to Swedish to learn Swedish, the language, so I can still I'm better at understanding than speaking it. And then since then, I've been back to visit. I wouldn't say regrets, but I think I would have loved. I should have, and I had the option to add on another year on my contract, but my work here gave me a sabbatical, so I felt like I had to come back to that teaching job, whereas I probably should have stayed for at least another year. But I think if I'd have stayed for another year, I would have stayed there and I would have settled down
Really?
there, because it's such a beautiful place. But I love that, it's not too far to visit. But yeah, it's fantastic.
It's something that interests me there. Obviously, you said you learnt the language. Was there any other difficulties at all, such as you say, the language barrier? And how did you find being away from home?
I think the good thing was FaceTime was around. If it was before that, it would have been really, really difficult. And I'm so close to my family. I'm really close, but I've probably always been. I've never, since moving out, I've never lived on the doorstep. So I've always had to travel home, whether it's an hour, an hour and a half, whatever. But it's never ruined how close we are as a family. And my mum came over to visit. It was one of my best friend's weddings, so I came back for that for a week. So we just made sure that we spoke all the time to my friends and family. And then I had like some of my best friends as well come and visit me and stuff. So I just wanted to relish the experience. And I guess at that point it was always, it was always actually that I was always coming home. And because it was only a short flight home, it was always that, if I did really miss people, I could always organise when we didn't have a game to come home for a weekend and stuff. But I knew that I was there for me, and I don't mean that in a selfish way, but probably I wanted to go out there to just really have self-development and have a real focus on me.
I mean, after that, you returned back, and I say back home to Villa, where you finished your playing career, captaining the side. Did you ever have an age in mind, Chloe, where you thought, right, I'm playing to that age, that's it?
Well, I retired for about 3 months after returned from Finland. Not for any reason other than I thought, I've done it. I've achieved everything, and I'm fine. And how old was I? 27. It was stupid of me, actually. 27. Came back and thought, yeah, I'm done. And that lasted about 3 months. And Villa at the time, I had a really good relationship with Villa. It took them years to get me the first time, because I was very much like, Wolves players don't go to Villa. Like, that doesn't happen. We hate Villa. And so that. And then I had different offers. I had conversations with like Bristol at the time, and like other teams. And it was only ever going to be Villa. So if I did return back to playing, it was only ever going to be Villa. And I think Jade Richards, one of the Villa players at the time, I'm sure that she was going to America or something. So Joe Hunt at the time said, we really need you. Can you come and play for a short while, because we really need you back? And I was like, okay, I'll do you this favour. And then as soon as I went back, I stayed, and that was it then, because I think I got the bug again, and you realise what you miss. And then in my head I had, I'll play till I can't play any longer. That was the aim then, because and I remember when I worked at the college at Heart of Worcestershire, I remember Lisa May, who worked with me. This was before I went to Finland, actually, because she said, and she played sport at a high level, but she was in kind of athletics and netball and stuff. And she said, you need to do what you can in sport, because your sports career is so short. You need to make the most of it, and then you've got the rest of your life then to do everything else. She said, but your sporting career is so short, and you need to really make the most of every experience. So I think I always hear her in my head saying that, for me to go, what, I need to keep going, and while I love it, why wouldn't I? So was lucky enough to obviously Joe Hunt was manager. And then it was Dave Stevens, Ian Sankey and Cozza, and then Carly Davis got involved. And you know, they were my family until I retired. And I love the fact that I was able to be captain in, you know, the final year and a bit, because they meant the world to me, and still do. So yeah, it was fab. We were, you know, really successful. We had a quality team, and we were very much on, you know, young youth player development, and stuff. And I probably did what, you know, players did with me, like took players under my wing and really supported them and helped them with the transition of, you know, I think the hardest transition of when players are coming up is, you know, they go from the RTC playing every week, being the star player, and then they come up and they sit on the bench. Yeah. Whereas actually, they think they're not good enough. Whereas it's re-educating them to say, you are good enough. Just learn your trade, and you'll be in and out, just to give a taster of it, because it's a different environment. Mm-hmm. So you know, I was probably that to a lot of the players as well. And I guess throughout my career, I've always prided myself on like my fitness, and I always had in my head, I know I'm the oldest player, but I'm going to be the fittest player. Mm-hmm. So I've always loved pre-season. I always loved fitness testing, and it was a running joke that kind of I was the oldest, but I was the fittest player, mm-hmm. and nobody would beat me, sort of thing. So to be honest, I finished probably my playing career in my fittest state. And then, even though I thought, you know, I'll play till, you know, I can't play any longer, I think when I did actually decide to retire, it was because I didn't have any injuries. I'll finish my career where I'm playing consistently, you know, captain of the side, like I had a really good season. I won player of the season, and I thought, well, this is probably the perfect time, because I'll finish here rather than here. Yeah. And I never wanted to kind of tip over that. So that was probably when it was a good time for me, because I didn't want to be remembered as the player that lost her legs or whatever. So I wanted to make sure I was here, and because I've always been someone that had high standards, again, I wanted to be remembered for those as well.
So when did the initial sort of interest in coaching start?
Well, I did my level 1 and level 2 when I was 16, 17. Okay. And randomly I did, and again, this is one of those things, I don't think I've got a great memory, to be honest, because I always forget these important things. But when I did my level 2, I actually did my placement within Stoke, within the Centre of Excellence, when it was called at the time, with the under 12s, and some of those players have, you know, been involved now. So I think I did my level 1 and 2, and then I got offered to do my UEFA B straight away. Okay. And I thought, like, I was, you know, just starting uni and stuff, and I thought, I really want to focus on my playing career. Because I ended at Leicester, I was you know, coach within the RTC Centre of Excellence at the time, and then I was actually Centre of Excellence manager. Okay. And when I went into teaching, I thought, I just want to focus on my playing career for now. So I like coaching, but I want to just put it on hold just for you know, until I finish. So. And when I finished, it was the fact that I've never lost love for the game. So I always wanted to be involved in the game. And the idea was to continue with Villa. Because obviously we were in the Championship, and we didn't have a reserve team anymore, and you know, all that change and stuff. I thought, well, I need to go somewhere where I'm going to get loads of coaching time, because they've got brilliant coaches that I know I'd learn from, but I wanted to just have more coaching time. For my own development, rather than kind of watching. So I mean, I moved to Stoke. I moved in with my partner, so I moved to Stoke, and then changed colleges to one in Stoke. So and she plays for Stoke as well. So it just made sense. So Stoke contacted me, you know, do you want to get involved? Actually, it was for me to play for them first. Okay. And I said, you know, no, you know, if I was playing for anyone, I would have just stayed at the Villa. And I wouldn't have left. So, and I never wanted to drop down again. I wanted to finish, you know, there. And then, you know, I got involved in Stoke. Tim Dudding and Tom Davis were coaches then, so got involved with them. It's brilliant. They moved on, and it's probably at that time when I thought, oh my God, like, well, what are we going to do now? Because it's me. Yeah. And then, so then kind of it was you head coach until the end of the season, like your interim head coach. And I was like, wow, I don't even know how to do that. So I think that throughout my playing career, I've always been comfortable because I knew kind of my journey, and I knew what I had to do. But it's in coaching, it was like, bam, dropped in the deep end. Let's figure this out. So I've really been learning on the job with that. Obviously, I was doing my UAFB, finished that, talking to the FA about my A license now and stuff. So I didn't really know how far I wanted to go, but being head coach and being able to create your own culture, your own team, and again shaping people's lives as well as their playing careers and stuff, I absolutely love it, and it's my new passion now. So I had a really successful season last year, even though it was cut short. And it wasn't so much about the where we finished in the league for me. It was actually our playing style, how fit our players are, how good the culture is, how much players enjoy, how competitive we are and stuff. And we've turned into real kind of league contenders now, because we've changed everything, and we've recruited really good players, and bettered the ones that we already had, and that's continued on for this season now. We've got to League Cup final. Unfortunately, we couldn't play in it. So really looking forward to the future of Stoke, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, when I was younger, and I used to hate Stoke, honestly. Like, Stoke were the team that you'd go to, you'd get kicked off the park. Yeah. If we drew them in any cups and stuff, we'd be like, oh God, we're going to finish the game with some bruises and whatnot. And it was never. I'm not saying it was never an attractive club, because once you get in there, it's like infectious, but it was never kind of a club that I think, that's a great move to go there. But I think now we've turned into an attractive club, which is brilliant, and that's what we wanted.
It's something I like to ask all the coaches we have on the podcast. Mm-hmm. Did getting your qualifications quite young influence the way that you saw the game and the way that you played it?
Well, when I did my level 1 and level 2, it was very prescriptive, and it was very, I did the old one. So I guess you probably did the old one as well, and it was very much, I'll deliver, you copy, and you just deliver that back to me. And there was no kind of individuality, no creativity. You just deliver what I've just showed you. It was, a talk and chalk, wasn't it? But I think I think what kind of shaped me into the coach that I am is probably the coaches that I've had, more than any certificate that I've got or qualification that I've achieved. So it was almost taking a little bit from each of them, and that probably shaped me into how I wanted to be. But I think that, doing my UAFB recently, I absolutely loved that course, because it was all about, it's all about kind of your philosophy, and actually it's not from a textbook now. It's based on your players, your profiling, what you want to achieve, what you want to get to, and your vision. So I found that so useful. So I like the way that the new courses are, how it's more based on your environment. And so that really, really helped me last year, and also working with really quality coaches on the course as well, and having taking little bits from them as well, because everyone was different. Like I said, the old ones was just everyone did the same thing, that's it. Whereas it was good having, like you said earlier, having so many opinions. And I was in a room of 15 different opinions, and they were all positive opinions but very different, and that was a really, really good. I absolutely loved doing that course, and that's probably what's made me want to do the A license.
I agree with that. I think with the new formats of the courses, it's about you as a coach, and I think we can, on the previous courses, have been a bit too robotic.
Yeah.
I think football's got many opinions, and that's what makes it so great, is that as long as you can add value and context and rationale behind your decisions, then who's to say you're wrong?
Yeah. And I think the new age of professional coach, you look at like Pep Guardiola and these coaches that have kind of broke the mold, and that they've been really creative and out there. And I think years ago you've been, why are you deferring from a 4-4-2? Like, nobody does that. And now it's kind of loads of different ways that you can play, and it's just like you say, if there's a rationale behind it and there's a reason for it and it has an impact, then it's okay.
There's a couple of examples that, from previous podcasts, that we spoke to a Bournemouth manager, Luke Garrard, and he mentioned about the Cowley brothers. He was onto them. What did you change through your meteoric rise? And they went, nothing, absolutely nothing. The players got better, but our philosophies and because they believed in what they did, and it stood them in good stead. You know, they've not. And look at Pep when he first started. You know, the media were like, "Why are you playing out from the back? Why are you playing for the thirds? Changing weight?" And he was like, "I'm not changing my way. This is how I play." I think we've been very fortunate to witness some fantastic football whilst he's been over here. There's a few more before we go into the infamous sort of quick-fire question round. There's one that's a little bit personal for me, and it is just my opinion, but you know, hopefully stirred a bit of interest. How much positive or negative influence would you say that male coaches have had on the female game in the earlier years? Now, and again, this is just my opinion. I feel female players are technically better than males, but I think male players are more physical.
Yeah.
And I think at times male coaches have tended to have that physical influence on the female game.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's something that's you've experienced at all, or am I talking absolute nonsense?
No. I think that I do agree. I think that, so just kind of not recently, but when I was at Villa, obviously Ian Sankey came from the male game into the female game to coach, and he won't mind me saying that he found it really challenging, and he learned so much from it, because I think it's not just that I do believe that female football is technically better because of, you know, males are physically, so, you know, some male players, you can think that they're brilliant, but actually no, they're just rapid. And so if their first touch is a big touch, they're quick enough to get there. Whereas I think female game is a little bit more intricate in the way that we play, and I think Ian Sankey, you know, the female game is more personable as well, I'd say, and it's a lot more, actually, you need to think about how you deal with players, how you manage players, because it's not just cutthroat. As in, and you know, especially in a lot of female teams, you know, in the elite male game, you have to be cutthroat because it's their livelihood, whereas a lot in the female game, it's actually as a hobby still. And as professionals, we want to make it, it's still either a hobby or just expenses. But I think I wouldn't say male and female have had an influence. I think if it's been the right person for the job, I think that there's been a lot of male and female coaches that have had a good influence on the game. But I think ultimately, as long as your coach, whether it's male or female, is a role model, and that could be the way that they conduct themselves, the way that they coach, the way that they play, or if they've played at an elite level, I think that's made more of a difference, because I think no matter what age you get, you want someone to look up to. And you know, that's, you know, Dennis Mortimer at Wolves, that was massive. That was absolutely massive, because how much success he had, you know, the Villa final, you know, the cup final and stuff like that. That was really, you know, aspirational and things. And you know, one of the probably the best, I didn't have him for long, but Mark Skinner, who's now Orlando Pride manager, probably one of the best technical coaches I've ever had. And again, didn't have him for long, but I think I think it's because he did challenge the mold, and he did kind of think outside the box. And you know, when he was coaching, there was no standard way of doing it. It was just, okay, well, work out the best way of doing, you know, that certain thing and do it like that. But yeah, I wouldn't say that. I think it's a hard one, isn't it? Because now there's a massive push on female coaches, and yes, there is a massive need for female coaches, but I think it's more of to be given a platform to be able to, and then ultimately it gives a bigger pool for coaches to be selected to get for the right person for the right job. If you know what I mean.
I mean, the reason I sort of brought that was I've been very fortunate to see my wife play, who your partner used to play with at Stoke Ladies, and I always remember the extremely sort of high standard of technical ability. And I think when Kaylee fell out of love with the game, she was my inspiration to get into coaching. She was level 2. I was just an awful Sunday league player, and she changed the way that I looked at the game. And seeing the high standard of technical ability on show was something that maybe shaped the way that I coached. Is that I don't want to be a physical coach. There's moments where you have to be. I want to play good football and
Yep.
show the love of the game. And it's just always something that's maybe bugs me a little bit, that we can have that confidence on.
Yeah, and I agree. It's something as simple as, in the male game, because of the physicalities, in the male game, there still are teams that go route one. Whereas I think because of the physicalities in the women's game, you're forced to play differently, because route one might not be an option, because you might not have a player that can ping it 50, 60, 70 yards so it actually challenges coaches, doesn't it? To kind of do the jigsaw to work out, how you can play through and stuff. But I do agree. I think just a lot of the coaches that I've had or experience with probably have been technical coaches.
Yeah, I mean, certainly my time with Crew Ladies changed the way I was as a coach. 100%, because, as I say, we had players that couldn't, for example, from goal kicks, clear the edge of the area. So they had to play out, and it worked. And look, without getting into too much, it was a fantastic experience, and it changed the way that I coach. We've mentioned quite a lot throughout the chat that how football is quite intense, how it takes over our lives. Has there been any moments during your career, Chloe, where you fell out with the love of the game at all?
I wouldn't say I've never fell out with the game. I think probably, like I alluded to earlier, probably my time at Liverpool, it forced me towards the end of it. I mean, I only moved mainly because so Liverpool still wanted me. It was the fact that I had to look after myself and my own well-being, really, because it was just, like I said earlier, I either was almost at breaking point or at breaking point, just burnout, just because it was too much. I think, when I was younger, I was very passionate and had this kind of vision of where I wanted to go, even when it wasn't an opportunity to go and play professionally. So I never felt like I missed out. So I never felt like football was a negative thing. It was my choice. Yeah. So even when I was younger, I never felt like I'd fell out of love with the game. I think because I've had maybe different changes in environments, I always kept it fresh. Yeah. And probably I always moved on at probably the right time to get the new challenge, so I never got bored. And it was always really exciting for me. And I'm not this player that thought, I'm always going to move teams. Not like that, because if I didn't need to move, I wouldn't have moved. And that's why I went back to Villa after Finland, because I absolutely love the club. And I think I just moved at the right time for my own personal development. Else I could have gone backwards, or I could have just gone a bit stale. So yeah, never fell out of love of the game. It was just my own well-being at one point.
Yeah, the women's game is on a meteoric rise, and rightly so. How excited are you, Chloe, with the development and progression of the women's game?
Oh, so excited. It's getting its own platform in its own right. So for me, I always say that, yes, you've got male football and women football, but that's have them as separate things. They're different. So allow women to have their own platform, and let it be its own entity. And that's the way that it's going. More people watch it, more people know about it and enjoy it, because we always have the negative stigma of female football, and then half the negative stigma from people that have never experienced it or are ignorant to it. And I said on a previous interview that I did that it's okay if some people don't enjoy it. It's think of multiple sports. Some people like watching golf but don't like cricket, for example, which that's okay. You don't have to share your negative views about it when other people like it. Yeah. Whereas if you don't enjoy it, but make sure you've experienced it and tried it, then that's okay. But you don't have to shout about it and put other people down. It's my annoyance is when it puts other people down, when it's their livelihood, when it's their hobby, their love, and they're really, really good at it, amazing at it. So I hope that it continues. I hope that more funding is being put in place. I'd love to see more female teams having their own stadiums. And I'm not talking about 80,000, in a stadium, but just to have their home, because, even if, the bigger clubs play at a stadium, it's still known as someone else's changing room and someone else's home. So I think that would be absolutely brilliant. It's brilliant that more women's teams are training at the men's training ground. and are really integrated, you know, train alongside each other. You know, in media events, you now see the male and the female footballer there. You've got female pundits. So it's not just about football on the grass, it's about kind of the sports kind of industry that's helping to increase the profile. You know, there's loads of talk about the new England women's coach. And yeah, I just really hope that we continue in a forwards motion, making sure that it's sustainable, and to keep giving opportunities to loads of females to play, whether it's at grassroots or the elite level. But I do believe that in the next few years we'll get to silverware with the international teams in the senior setup. You know, I know previously we've had silverware with the younger age groups, and I hope that you know, that goes into the senior setup. But it's really exciting. I wish I was 10 years younger to be involved now, but also I'm very proud of being involved in the start of this drive forward, and hopefully I'll help to continue as in a coaching capacity. But no, it's really exciting time, and I think the good thing is the you know, the stigma's still happening, but it's being challenged now, whereas in the past it was happening and then just being accepted. But I think there's a massive pushback now of actually, you know what, we've dealt with this for long enough, we're not having it anymore. Yeah. So actually we're challenging everything, which I think it's really, really positive, because like I say, the platform's massive now.
That brings me on quite nice to something that's reared its head recently in the news. The Charlton athletic player Rachel Newbury, subject to some absolute vile words online. Mm-hmm. You alluded to it earlier about ignoring opinions that don't matter to you. What advice would you offer to any females, young females looking at getting into the game?
I think it's making sure you've got the right support network. I think that's definitely first, and surrounding yourself with positive people that have a positive influence on you and you on them. But I think, you know, as big as the platform increases and gets bigger, I think there's also more of a platform for the trolls. But again, it's about challenging them, but in the right way. So it's not about biting, and it's not about, you know, feeding them because they want the reaction. It's about letting the football do the talking, making yourself be the best person that you can be, to stand up for things in the right way, and let you know, the powers that be challenge it. And I think the FA need to be stronger to challenge it as well, because it's a shame that it's always kind of put on the player. And I do think the bigger establishments and organisations, you know, the FA, you know, UEFA, I think they need to be the people that stand up for the players now. I really do. Or even the clubs need to as well. I know that I'm trying to think of a Spurs player that got signed. I can't think of her name now. She recently got signed, and you just look on Twitter when she got signed, and you just see below, and you see all of it, you know, females in the kitchen, and you just see it all, and it just makes me question that, why on earth would you, if you've got that opinion, keep it to yourself? It's bad, it's wrong, I'm telling you it's wrong, but if you have got it, and we can't change the way that people think unless they experience it, and you know, they give the game a go. But why on earth would people, even what we've been through this year, why would you still want to put people down and make people feel sad? And, you know, I really, really don't understand it. You know, I don't like everything, but things that I don't like, one, I'd never be negative towards it. I just keep it, you know, but the last thing I would ever do is discriminate or troll, or, you know, use my time to just think, you know what, I'm going to make them upset today. I really, really baffles me.
I don't understand, Chloe, the same when it became acceptable to do so.
No.
I don't understand where that change happened. It's
no, and it seemed to us, and it's when you see the rest of the people liking it, making, you know, putting positive emojis and stuff, and I just think someone needs to really stand up for this. And like I say, it has to be one of the big organisations to put kind of repercussions, and, you know, to make it an offence, because else it will just continue to grow, because they've got this open platform that they can do it. Yes, it can be taken down, but they can do it the next day to somebody else. I just don't understand people that are happy to do that. I really don't, because I'm sure if it happened to them, they wouldn't be very happy.
No, I agree. And anyone that is listening who sits and you behind your keyboard and does that, then please stop. It's not worthy of anyone's time. My last question before the quick fire round. You mentioned earlier about your time at Liverpool and the burnout and, sort of hiding the fact that you were closer there. As a coach now, would you prefer players to come and have that chat and say, I'm struggling with the burnout? And what advice would you give to coaches?
Yeah, I think in the past and probably still now, there's sometimes a fear of honesty and being honest, but as a player and now a coach, I understand the difference, and I've experienced the difference of training and playing fatigued. And sometimes as a player, you don't realise it and you just think you're unfit. So you actually end up training more, whereas actually it's educating to that. Rest is as important as your training. And then like I said earlier, that we've got footballers, but they're also people. So it's creating that environment of an honest environment and looking after people. So creating the relationships so players can come and talk to coaches, can be honest with coaches, and then we can manage it. So I think we've got that really well at Stoke, and I know at Villa I always had that. And to be honest, a lot of teams I've been at, I had that. I think it was just Liverpool because it was Liverpool, and you never wanted to give a reason to not be picked. So it was, you just tried to manage it as best as you can. Have a naughty energy drink, which I wouldn't condone now. But yeah, it's just about knowing your players, and you can tell. You can tell, and you can tell when someone's playing fatigued, and it's not just their technical; it's their decision making as well, and the time that they take to make the decision, or how accurate the decision is. And it's just about knowing the individuals and taking the time for that. As well as the honesty, because I've got my really, really good friend. I won't name her because she'll kill me. But she's the probably the worst one for playing fatigued, because she wants to train all the time, and she's fit as a fiddle, but actually she goes backwards because she trains too hard and she doesn't rest. She'll go training and then she'll go work full time. She won't sleep very much. She won't have a recovery. She doesn't eat enough. And it's managing and balancing that, which I wish that I would have known more about it as a player.
No, it's great, and obviously I think your close friend there will appreciate you not dropping her in it. But this is the time for you to drop people in it. The quick fire question round, just a little bit of fun to make you feel a bit uncomfortable and best moment in football to date, Chloe.
For me,
best moment.
Pulling on so wearing the Liverpool strip for my first game.
Okay. Why that one?
Well, I shouldn't have to say I'm a Man United supporter, but I'll always say that Man United didn't have a women's team then, so that's all right. And also, I know that when I was at Liverpool, they always told me, Chloe, if you get interviewed, do not tell anyone that you're a Manchester United supporter. I think it was just, that was when I thought, you know what, I've done all right, and I've got here, and I think it was just a really, really proud moment. And it was one that my dad would have always wanted as well. So it was for the whole family. So that's probably why.
Superb. Biggest wow moment to date? Anything where you've just sat back and gone, wow?
Probably watching two players that have just been unbelievable, and they still are now. And in the middle of the game, and you watch Kim Little or Farrah Williams do something that you don't even understand how they've done it, and you're playing against them, and you just want to stand there and just clap. Yeah. So I think there's probably multiple occasions when they've done something on the pitch, but I think probably, just when spectacular players do something that you just think, God, that was blooming brilliant. And then you have to try and run after them then. And so I think I can't specifically think of kind of one, but it's probably kind of them on multiple occasions.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Best friend in football?
Leanne Rimmer. So I've got loads and loads of close ones, but I think the one that has been kind of for the longest time, Leanne Rimmer. So a girl that I used to play for at Wolves with. She's She's just 5 foot, and she played centre back, and she could jump higher than anyone, and a brilliant player. But yeah, so you know, my best friend up to now, and she's fantastic, and she's my rock.
Okay, fantastic. Toughest opponent as a player and then as a coach.
Okay, toughest opponent would probably be. Oh, that's. What I have got two, and it's because they're just absolutely. One of them actually played in the same team as at Leicester, but so one of them, Rach Williams. I've never known a player so strong on the pitch, and probably one of the most underrated players as well. I know she did break into the England setup at some point, but I don't know how she hasn't been noticed more for what she does. She's most hardworking and absolute solid. And she's one of those players you'd always want on your team. Another one, Drew Spence at Chelsea. Again, probably similar. Both of them are very, very underrated, but probably some of the hardest players to play against. Rachel's one of the best to play with, but some of the hardest players to play against. I think they're probably underrated because they do work so well that they're probably not noticed as much, because that they're not kind of flamboyant players. They do all the hard work to give the creative players. But yeah, I'll probably say those two. And as a coach, I don't know. I really, really don't know. You know what? As a coach, I'll say Alina Moulton, because I know that she's our head coach now. But she was at Forest, so we both got thrown in the deep end for our my first game as head coach was against Nottingham Forest, and she got thrown in the deep end to be head coach for the interim as well. So I'll say her.
Okay, fantastic. Best trainer
for my current team
that you've seen.
Best trainer.
One that really stood out and you were like, wow, I want to be like her.
I'm going to say, well, I would say me, but I won't. Only because I was always the nerdy. Honestly, I was the real nerdy one. Best trainer, I'd probably say the most hard-working trainer I've had is probably Hayley Crackle at Villa. One of the most hard-working players, and was always up there. Me and her were always up there in the fitness tests, and just the desire and passion. She put everything into every training session.
Biggest role model or influence in football?
My parents, and I can't split it. I guess off the pitch it was my parents, and my sister, so my family, my parents and my sister, and then on the pitch, she'll go mad as well, but because she's a friend. But Rach Unit, as a player, I think, I was kind of. She obviously went. She was probably my role model because she came from the same area as me. She played for Wolves, and then she went on to bigger and better things. And I just wanted to emulate kind of her career, really. And she was a lefty as well, so that naturally made her my role model. She's also retired about 5 times, and I think she's actually retired now. But her. Okay,
this is one that's stumped people quite a lot. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh God. Now you want to think like the best words, don't you? But I'm not gonna. I've got to have probably committed, professionalism, and I know I'd never reach perfection, but I've always tried to be a perfectionist, and just to have that aspiration. That sounds really boring because that makes me sound like I'm not actually a nice person either, but I am, I promise.
No, I'm sure we can tell that from it. I like that. Committed, professional, perfectionist. I like it. Mm-hmm. Is there anyone you would recommend or like to hear on the podcast?
There's loads of people, really. I think of someone that's had a different kind of experience. I'd probably say Kerry Welsh. She's, not to go into too much detail, and she'll kill me for throwing her under the bus here, but I would. She'd be well up for it. She's had a fantastic career. I'm trying to get her at Stoke, but she won't come yet. But I just she's one of them. She's done her ACL 3 times and she's bounced back 3 times. So I think it's not just about a football career. It's about how strong she is as a person to be able to do that, and how committed she has always been to football. So yeah, that would be really interesting.
And I know Kerry, so I'll get onto it and tell her you chucked her under the bus there.
Yeah,
so,
you can tell her that I stitched her up.
Yeah, brilliant. Chloe, look, I mean, it's on a Friday morning. I know how busy you've been with the return to play coming on, and I just want to say thank you for taking the time to speak to us today. I've absolutely loved the chat, and just wish you, Stoke City Women, and everybody else involved the best in the future. When and if you get to return to play next month.
Yeah, and thank you. No, really enjoyed it. I can't. Sorry, it's taken so long. It has been mental, but hopefully it's been worth it. It's been really enjoyable. So thank you.
It's superb. Really appreciate it. And as I say, everyone at PCT wishes you well, and no doubt we'll speak soon.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Ductig brand is on hand for all of your coaching needs, whether it be to plan sessions or take notes whilst observing games. Ductig are able to cover all of your needs. Use the discount code Irvine20 at checkout to receive a discount. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoy the content that we're trying to bring to you. Don't forget, new episodes will be released every Monday. You can find us on the iTunes Store, Spotify, and if you want to see the video, you can see it on our YouTube channel, PCT Football Coaching.